All right, I hope you all can hear me. Thank you for this wonderful warm welcome and thank you Tejas for the introduction. I'm excited for this talk because it has been an experiment that I have been doing for a while. But before I jump into this talk, there are two important things that I need to mention. Yes, I did get a PS5 at a flash sale. It was a genuine sale, to be honest. It was by a genuine e-commerce site that did that. I did pay a lot of money because, oops, I am not a gamer. So that is ironic to my first statement. I said online, refresh the page just to get a PS5, but I'm not a gamer. And the last time I played a game on my PS5 console was maybe 6 months back. So for the folks who have any gaming questions, I am not the right person. But who am I? My name is Harshil Agrawal, and I work as a developer advocate at Contentful. And just to give you a quick idea what Contentful is, it's a composable content platform with an API-first architecture. So you can orchestrate content from multiple sources and then display it or basically display it to any digital channel that you want, be it website, VR applications, mobile applications, anything that you want. I like to think about myself as an experimentalist because I do a lot of experiments around technologies. I build silly projects, and then I like to share those learnings with the community, and that's what I am doing today. And lastly, I am learning digital illustration, so all those not so good looking illustrations that you are seeing on these slides are hand drawn by me. So please bear with me, there are a couple of few of them as well. All right, and if you want to know a bit more about me, that's me on my website. I thought of putting my Twitter handle, but then, anyways, we know where Twitter is going right now. So the agenda of the talk looks like this. We'll start with the introduction. And with the introduction, I'm going to also talk about the implementation, and hopefully, I'll be trying a bit of live coding to show the implementation part. But if the live coding fails, I have two demos that I have created, which will get you more excited, hopefully. Thank you. All right, now before I jump into APIs, can I get a show of hands for anyone who knows what an API is? All right, wonderful. But for the folks who didn't raise their hand, I'm just going to do a quick intro about APIs. APIs stand for Application Programming Interface, and I'm going to give you the worst explanation about APIs, so bear with me. They basically allow two programs to interact with each other. That's the simplest definition that I can give. Now, talking about web APIs, well, these are the application programming interface that allow the client and the server to interact with the web. And now, these web APIs can be classified into two. The first is the third-party APIs, which we normally use because these APIs allows you to interact with a web server. And please note that these APIs are not built in the browser. If you want to use these APIs, you might use something like Fetch, NodeFetch, Axios, and libraries like that. A couple of examples is the YouTube API, is the Telegram API, and if you're using Contentful, that's the API for Contentful as well. And the second part of this is the browser APIs. Now, these browser APIs, as the name suggests, they are built in the browser. Because they are built in the browser, they enhance the experience of browser and they allow you to expand the capability for the browser. A couple of examples is the web audio API. So if you have a web application which is heavily dependent on audio, you can use the web audio API to interact with the audio. There is the gamepad API, which allows you to connect your gamepads with your web application, and there is the web HID API. I'm going to talk more about the gamepad API and the web HID API in this talk. So let's talk about the gamepad API. As I already mentioned, the gamepad API allows you to connect your gamepads to your web applications. So if you already have any game that is running on the browser, you can connect your gamepad to that. You can use it both via the USB or Bluetooth and configure it to interact with your game. But there is certain limitations with that. And the first is haptic feedback. Not a lot of controllers support haptic feedback, and the haptic feedback interface is still under experimental flag for almost all the browsers right now. And if you are using web VR, there is the pose interface, which is again under experimental. But I would say if you are building something for web VR, Gamepad API is the best API to use if you want to have that interactivity going on in the web VR games. So again, the gamepad haptic actuator is the interface for the haptic feedback, and then for web VR, it is the gamepad pose. Now, while I was experimenting with this API, I learned that my PS5 controller, or commonly known as the DualShock controller, does not support haptic feedback. Now imagine playing a game with such an advanced controller but not getting those haptic feedback. You're basically taking away that experience from the user. And that is something that I didn't really enjoy much. And that's when I learned about the WebHID API. Now this whole API is under the experimental flag. It is available in some of the browsers, but not all the browsers support it. And again, it's still again, on all the browsers, again, it's under the experimental flag. Now, before I jump into Web HID, let us talk a bit about HID, what it even is. So HID is basically stands for Human Interface Devices, and they allow bidirectional communication. So a user can give an input to your application, and they can also get the input from that application as well. Now, prior to the HID interface, there were standardized protocols which were mainly created for keyboards and mouse, which kind of added limitation for hardware innovation. Because if you wanted to create a new kind of an hardware, you might either overload that data in that existing protocol, or you would create your own drivers, which was again painful because with the amount of hardware devices we have right now, imagine each one of them having their own driver. Oops. All right. And the HID protocol was originally introduced for the USB, but now you can use it over Bluetooth as well. I haven't, all the demos that I'm going to show is going to be working with USB. I did not get enough time to implement that over the Bluetooth protocol because the data that is exchanged is a bit different, so I had to configure it manually, which I could not. All right, so moving forward with the implementation part, the first thing that you would want to do is connect the device. Now, this is one of the major differences between the HID device and the gamepad device. For the gamepad device, as soon as you connect your device to the machine and interact with that device, the machine would, or the browser would understand that there is the device. I'm really bad at using the clicker. Anyways, it's really, it will understand that the device is connected and you can start playing the game. But due to security issues with the HID interface, you need to use the function that is request device, and you need to pass on the filter which contains the vendor ID and the product ID. Now, the product ID is unique for each and every kind of gamepad or each and every kind of controller. And if you are interested in learning about that, if you want to get into HID and if you want to find out where you can find the vendor ID and product ID, the link is down in the slide. You can use that as well. Now, there might be a condition where you might want to exclude certain filters or exclude certain devices from connecting to your application. And you can use the exclusion filter over here and pass on again the vendor ID and the product ID just to specify like, hey, this is something that we don't want to do. All right, I'm going to try to implement this over here. If I can find, okay. So this is a very simple page right now. It has 3 buttons: connect, get devices, and change color. If I click on connect, we see there is undefined over here because we haven't connected the device. So let's get in over here. Now I'm going to try to code this. Now by design, this API is async. So I can easily use this within an async function. All right, it should be request device. And now all I have to do is get the filter from here. Now already know what the filter is for my dual choke controller, so I'm just going to pass it in here, save this, and if I click on connect, hopefully things should work. We got undefined. Let's try to refresh it. It's request device. Right. We can even do devices if we want. Let's do that. All right, now it should give me a pop-up. All right, so now we get a pop-up. It is asking me to connect to my device. I'm going to give it the permission, and now I can connect it over here. And now we have the HID array. It's basically giving me the list of devices. Right now, I just connected one devices, so it's just one device over here. So that is the implementation for connecting the device. There is another function once the user has connected the device, or if you want to get the list of devices that the user has already connected with your application, you can use the get device function over here, and this will return the list. Now, both the request device and the get device function return an HID interface, which looks something like this. It contains a collection which returns an array of report. We're going to dive into report, but think of report as the data that is being exchanged between the device and the application. Then there is an event that is on input report, and there is a flag that is opened, which is by default false. So whenever you connect the device, the connection is still closed. So you will need to explicitly open the connection to interact with the device. And then there is the product ID, the product name, and the vendor ID. All right. Now let's go ahead and let's also look at the open function. So the open function is quite simple. You just get the device and then you do device dot open, and this will open the connection, and then you can start interacting with the device. All right. So what I'm going to do right now over here is, because it is returning an array, I just want the first device. So I'm just going to do device is 0, and then I have an open connection function in here. And I'm going to uncomment this, save it. So if I click on connect, it's going to pop up again. Now, this is not a good practice generally because my device is paired. I can still get that device information using the get device function, but to show you how the flow looks like, I am going to click on connect again. And now over here, we see that the open flag is true. If I pop in over here, the open is also true over here. So the connection is open. So theoretically, if I am interacting with my device, something should be happening, but nothing happens right now. And this is because I still haven't added the event handler over here. Now, as I mentioned earlier, the HID device has the HID device uses data in a different way, and it is called report in here, and it has three kinds of reports. The first is the input report, which is basically a binary array of data which is sent to the device, which is coming in from the device. Then there is the output report, which is sent to the device to get that haptic feedback, change LED lights, or do whatever you want to do. And there is third, which is the feature report. This is kind of non-standard report, and it allows you to have bi-directional communication with your device. I still haven't got a chance to interact with this and create a demo, but in my slides, I have an example which will help you explore the feature report as well. All right. Now, we opened the connection, but when we were interacting with the device, nothing was happening because we didn't add an event listener. So this is one of the ways where you can add the event listener, and it has data, report ID, as well as the device information. I just forgot to add it in there. The other way to do it is use device.input report, and you can do the same thing over here. So once you do that, it's going to listen up for the incoming changes or the input coming in from the device, and then you can start playing with that. So this one is a bit longer, so bear with me. Do device on input report. I'm going to have an async function. let's just extract the data for now, which, okay. Now, as I mentioned, it should be, let's try this. And I'm going to simply do console log. And yes, I am one of those 70% of the people. All right, so let's try to connect our device again. The connection is open, so we should now start getting the data. So you see we are getting a continuous stream of data because this device has particularly touch sensors, it has a gyroscope, it has a lot of things going on in there. So every time I interact with them, or even if I'm not interacting with them, it is sending out some data to the browser. So our device is connected, things are working fine, it looks good. But what if we want to send some information to the device? Right now we are getting information from the device, right? So as I mentioned, there is an output report as well. So you can use the device send report function over here to send this information to the device. So I'm going to try to do something over here. All right, okay, I'm just going to uncomment this. And I'm not sure how many of you can see currently the LED lights in here are red. So what I want to do is change them to something maybe green. I'm going to save this. And again, I'm going to have to do the connect part again. Again, this is just for the demo purposes. Once you have your device paired with this, you don't need to do that. If I change color, you should hopefully able to see this. Okay, I have added something over here which should, I'm not sure, can you all see that it's green now? Perfect, thank you. So you can see now we have this. Thank you. And now I'm not sure what video source that is taking. I don't know. Never mind. So just like the output, you can also have the feature report. Again, I did not get enough time to explore what exact data I can send. So, but if you are curious, you can use the send feature report. And as I mentioned, it's a bidirectional one, so you can also receive this feature report using the receive feature report function. Now, apart from the on input report, there are other event listeners as well that you can use. The first is the connect. So let's just say the user connects the device, the connection is open, and now you want to do something. Maybe you want to remove the connect button from the screen and let the user interact with the game, right? That's when you can use the connect event listener, and you can just do the CSS changes that you want. Similar to connect, there is a disconnect event listener. Now, maybe a user by mistake disconnected the device, right? So this event will get triggered, and you can throw an error. You can say, hey, you disconnected the device. Connect the device again to continue playing the game or continue interacting with the web. Because we opened the connection, we let the flow of data from and to the device. We need to also make sure that we close this connection. So there is a function that is called close. And if you want, you can also revoke the access and close the connection using the forget function. So let's just say at the end of the game, you want the user to not interact with your game anymore, you can use close. Or if you want the user to revoke, if you want to revoke users' permissions, you can always use the forget function over here. Now, I mentioned earlier, like it is only available on certain browsers. So I would say browsers that are supported by the Chromium engine have that, and Opera surprisingly also supports this. There are good reasons why other browsers don't support it, and that is security issues. The security issues. The first is private information. Right now, this is a gaming device that I have, so it does not contain my private information. But HID devices have a wide range. So there might be an HID device that might contain your private information. And using those reports, anyone can access that private information. So that is something that is still need to be considered. Again, there is information from sensors. So sensors might also use the HID interface to interact with, and you don't want basically anyone on the internet to get information of the sensors that you are using at your home. So that's another concern over there. That is one of the major concerns that I am very much concerned about is harm the device. If you by mistake send a, a faulty report, it might break your device, it might harm the device. And similarly, it might harm the host as well if you haven't configured the input properly, it might harm the machine as well. Now I promised you I'm going to show you two demos. So if you hop on the link, it's not going to work for you because it's only compatible with the DualShock controller right now. But if you have a DualShock controller at home, you can go to that link and try it out. So let's see if it works over here. All right, so I've already loaded in here. I'm going to click on connect. I'm going to connect my device. It should work. All right, so this is a very simple Mario game that I created. So using my controller, I can move Mario back and forth and up and down. Where did the Mario go? Anyways, so I'm going to quickly walk through the code over here just to show you how it looks like under the hood. So over here, I am checking if the browser supports supports HID or not. If it supports HID, we are connecting it. We are asking it to connect to the device. If it is connected, I am saying like, hey, let's just show the game. Let's just hide the device button. And then I'm checking out for the report ID. And based on the report ID, if the report ID is correct, again, as I mentioned, we need to make sure that the input is proper so that we are not harming the device or the host. So I'm checking it over here, and then I am normalizing the data in a few ways. Now, what I'm doing is basically if I interact with my left thumbstick, and if I take it on the right-hand side, I'm very bad at directions, sorry. If I take it on the right-hand side, Mario should move forward. If I take it on the left-hand side, Mario should move back. If I take it up, Mario should go up. If I take it down, Mario should go down. So that's what I'm doing. And there's one fun thing that I've also added in here is if I click on the circle button, it gives a sense that it's shooting a laser. That's just my poor CSS skills. But the code for that is somewhere down over here. So I'm checking if the user presses the circle button, add some elements, add some CSS elements, and add the styling to that. So that was one of the demos that I had. And the next one is I created this like very last minute. It works, but I haven't created this whole thing by myself. So some gentleman on GitHub had created this snake game, and it was since it was available online, I thought maybe why not try to build it and add support for a controller. So that's what I did over here. So if I click on Start Game, because I've already configured my controller over here, I can easily just interact with it. I don't have to connect it again. And you can see I'm really terrible at this game, but one thing that I am really interested in showing is that I don't think I will be able to. Come on, no. Never mind, I give up now. One thing that I wanted to show is that, I've added, I showed you how I changed the LED color, but I also added something that is a rumble effect or a vibration effect. So if the snake crashes, the device rumbles and it changes the LED color to red. And this is the code over here. Now, one of the annoying part about WebHID is like the data mapping is a bit tricky. So if there are no existing libraries for your device, you might find it really difficult to figure out what data you want to use at which particular array. So that is something that I had to play a lot to understand like which one I need to use to get all those effects. But as you can see, I've enabled rumble over here and the light bar as well. And this is where I'm enabling rumble. So if the game ends, it vibrates, and then it also changes the color to red. All right, so those were the two demos that I created. But there are other projects that you can check out. So there is ergometer space. So if you have an ergometer at your place and you are not using it, maybe try out Ergometer Space because it makes it really fun to use Ergometer and exercise, and it kind of gamifies the whole experience. And if you are a keyboard nerd, Remap is a really interesting project that you might want to check out because it allows you to, as it says, remap the whole key bindings that you have, which is fun as well. Now, a couple of resources that have really helped me learn about WebHID are over here. And the Explorer that I was talking about earlier is this. So if you hop onto that Explorer, you can connect n number of devices, and you can play around with sending out different inputs, different outputs, as well as feature reports as well. So you can, I would say, if you want to really get into WebHID, that's one of the most useful resources. With this, I don't have anything else to add today. So thank you so much for clapping for my bad jokes and my bad CSS. I really appreciate it.